Good morning, gardeners and homesteaders. Welcome back to Sandy Bottom Homestead. I hope you're having a rather good day. It is it is sopping wet here. The air, it is just humid as it can be. And we're gonna get some storms. So I wanna come out here and harvest a little bit today, and I was gonna take you on that. This is our harvesting season apparently, and things are going very well so far. Specifically today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna get into these squash, in which we will be talking about squash vine borers a lot, stuff like that, because the season has begun for that. So we're gonna be talking about that. We're gonna be checking on our peppers and going to get some snow peas, and probably next video-ish, we're gonna get these potatoes. You know, really, I've cut the water off to the potatoes, but we're gonna get some good rains. So I want them to get one more watering, get them in there, and then we can get them out. Today, I don't usually use this anymore. This is our egg basket, but I'm gonna be using this because what I've done is I've left, if you haven't seen the video, you should go check it out afterwards. The potatoes from the other bed that we didn't expect to get a harvest from, I left those in the basket so that when we do them, I can keep them separated. And I wanna compare how much that bed versus this bed got. So what I'll do is I'll probably link that video at the end of this video so you can watch it in preparation, because it's gonna be pretty interesting. Root crops are just total wild cards in the garden as far as I'm concerned. So we'll see what happens. But let's get into these different squashes and see what we can have, and then check out our snow peas, and maybe we'll get something else, I don't know. Been harvesting a little bit off of this bed so far. What we've got going on here is we've got some straight 8 zucchinis. Did I say that right? I think so. No, Ford Hook zucchinis in here. We've got some desi squash, and we've got some scallop squash going on. And they're in different varieties, different stages of development. I did come out today real quick, and I need to treat again for the squash beetle, but I came out, I saw like 5 or 6 of them, so I pulled those off, found some eggs on the leaves, pulled those off. Problem I'm having is we just keep getting these inconsistent rains. So I really watch before I put any treatment on and make sure it's not just gonna wash off. Right now I've got my bees going into the squash, so it's gonna be a little bit dancey. They're, you know, pollinating and stuff. And this is the first time I've seen my bees in the squash, so I'm thrilled about that. They're getting their pollen, whatever. But we spray in the afternoon, but we get a lot of afternoon rains this time of year. So I'm just watching that. Like today is not gonna be a good good spraying event because of the rain. So that's why I was hand picking today, and I did get a fair amount of them off, but I'm having a hard time keeping up with it. So what that means is, if you watch the previous video where I talked about you need to do like up to 3 treatments, I'm probably gonna have to do about 4 to maybe 5 if I cannot get into that 7-day window, 7 to 10 day window for retreating. But I mean, what can you do, you know? I'm not gonna complain about the rain because the time's coming where it's gonna get dry. All right, this is how you know we mean business. We got pruners in our hands. So I don't even know which is which. So this is gonna be a desi squash. You can see it forming down there. These are typically a little bit slower to produce, so they won't be ready for a while. Look at this. Look at that. Beautiful. Beautiful zucchini. That's just, love it. So hopefully we'll get a bumper crop, but let's go through and see what else we find, because we want to make some zucchini bread, and it's a great way to use up some of your extra harvest if you can't eat it fast enough. Definitely brought you down here because I'm going to harvest this one right here. This is about the size that I like. If you get too big, they get pretty seedy, so we don't really want that. But let me get that out of there. And you can see, like, I don't know if you can see this, but I'll show you. We got a zucchini here that's just not going to make it. This is bad pollination. And this happens, so what I do is I just pull them off. But if we look in here, we can see, for instance, like this leaf right here, it's just all on the ground and mangled. That's gonna hinder your plant. So what I like to do is I like just come and pull those out. They're not doing any good, and they're just sucking the energy out of it. We see we've got 2 More zucchini on this plant. I'm not sure if you can see this one over here. And then right here, this is, so we sell the zucchini and this white bush scallop squash. Can it come out? Please fit out of this hole. Yeah, look at that. Isn't that something else? Beautiful. All right, got a couple more to add to the bounty. And I got another little pile over here, so pretty good. I'm not gonna complain. I tell you what. So this brings me to the section about the squash vine borer, and I know a lot of people have expressed interest in that. It's one of those things where they come out, so they hatch from the ground and they come up. If you ever see like a moth with a red thorax on it, I think that's the technical term. Typically that is the squash vine borer moth. Probably has a different name, but I don't really care. I gotta get these other squash. So we do a couple things about those, and I gotta be very clear before we get into this. One is I don't really care about wrapping tin foil around the stems of my plants, and I'm gonna show you why in a second. But two, this isn't like elimination of the squash vine borer. What this is a mitigation technique, because in my experience and all my years, there is not really anything that I have ever done to totally have a plant like this grow to its full maturity and life cycle without getting the squash vine borer damage. What this is, again, is like mitigation, and it's prolonging it so you can get as much harvest off of it. So if you're looking for like a total elimination of it, one, I think you're gonna have a really hard time finding that, but two, this is not the video for you and you're free to do whatever you want. That being said, there are a couple techniques that I've started doing over the past few years that really do seem to help. One technique that I do, and again, we have to wait for the weather because you can see the storms are starting to build. So we have to keep that in mind. But we'll come out here roughly every, well, not roughly, it's every 7 days. I'll pick a day of the week and I'll say, this is the day that I'm gonna treat. If it rains that day, like if I say Tuesday is the day that I'm gonna treat and that day it's raining, then Thursday I'll come and then I'll shift all the days to Thursday. So it may be an ongoing thing. Look at this. As I sit here and speak, and I also see eggs over there for that beetle. If that's occurring, then what happens is I'll come out here and I spray with BT. Before I show you the BT, those are the eggs of the squash beetles, so I just pull them off. A lot of people put duct tape on them. I don't like to put duct tape on my plants. Sometimes I'll just rip off the piece of the plant that it's on. It's no big deal. But so I use BT. This is it. Let me get the spider out of the way. Yeesh. So I've got a little bit in here. It's Thuricide BT Caterpillar Control. So I'll use this. It's organic. It's Bacillus thuringiensis is the agent. I don't want to say chemical, the agent that's in it, and it's naturally occurring. So we will spray this on the plants every 7 days. It's a little bit aggressive and we do continue to do it throughout, but in reality, that's what it takes, because this is just a persistent pest. And if you've ever grown squash vine or squash, you know that the borer is an issue. Now, what we do as well, and I have zero experience with this, but what we're planning to do is this corn bed here that's just starting to grow, we will spray it at the same time. Not as often, but we will do a preventative measure to kind of keep it down. And I don't really like to do a lot of preventative measures, but I've heard that the worm for the corn is an issue, a really serious issue that can get out of control fast. So we will do the same thing. And then also we have these cucumbers here that are growing at the same time in the same bed, and we did that on purpose because they get the caterpillar worm or the cucumber worm in them. Look at that. See that? It's another pest. So we'll have to get the neem oil out here as well. And we'll do that at the same time. And that's just, again, I've had them so they totally decimate my cucumbers, and they will do a complete, you know, decimation of it. So we will treat them both at the same time. The cucumbers may not get them as heavy, but we will start a treatment at some point. And so as you can see, I do a lot of hand picking. Now, let's say this. Let's say that you're treating and it's just not doing the trick, and you're about to lose your whole crop. That's when I'll come by and use this pyrethrin concentrate. Okay, so pyrethrin is from a chrysanthemum plant, better known as a mum, the flower. And that is a not so pretty organic treatment where it is not selective. So it just kind of blasts your plants. And you may only need to do 1 to 2 treatments of that. I would not do it regularly. Like I said, I have bees right over there. You can see them. And we sprayed it twice last year and we had no die-offs. We're very careful. We come out late in the evening when all the pollinators are done for the day, and we'll spray, and it seems to work fine. And I don't use that unless I absolutely have to. So that's the first method for the squash vine borer though. Or actually, I guess that's 2. But the pyrethrin, I keep that on hand just in case, but that is not my main treatment. The BT, which is safe for bees, put it to you this way. You can spray BT for the wax moth in a hive and it will not hurt the bees. That is an approved organic treatment for the wax moth in a hive. So people do that. I don't do it because I don't want to put the moisture in there, but if I had to, I would. I know you're probably tired of looking at this angle of my garden, but I'm trying to stay in the shade because it's just hot today. The other thing that we do, and this is really important, is we need to understand how a squash plant grows. And basically, it's almost kind of like a vine. And there's a really big trend right now about planting squash so they grow up vertical. But this is where the tinfoil and the vertical method just kind of don't work for me in my garden. What I do is I'll come out here right now and I don't have a bag of soil that I want to use. I can get some of my compost if I want, something like that. But knowing that this is basically a vine, just like a tomato, right? So what do we do when we plant tomatoes? We plant them deeper. Why do we plant them deeper? So that the roots will grow out of the stems. Same thing here. What I'll do is I'll usually you'll probably at some point see a bag of soil sitting here. And all I do is I come around and I look in here, like right here. So this is where your squash vine borer will typically go in. And I will take, and just for starters, I'll start piling up soil right there. And then as that gets watered and gets wet, it will actually form roots. It'll make the plant stronger, but it will form roots so that it can combat that. Now, the thing about using the tinfoil, I have a video from ways back where I did a dissection on one of these plants, pulled the squash vine borer out, and I literally showed you how they get into the plant. And most of the damage was not at the base of the stem. Most of the damage came from right here, right at the base of the leaves, where the egg will come on, it'll hatch, and then it'll go down. And it'll crawl all the way down into the stem, and then you see the damage. So that has been my experience. So I need to start looking for eggs, and I see more of the beetle eggs right here. See, just pull the whole thing off, whatever. But you just come through and you start looking for a little red speck. I have not seen any yet, and it doesn't really stick out like a sore thumb, but it kind of does, if that makes any sense. And you don't have to go super crazy, but once you start to see those, it's too late. So I'm keeping a close eye on my plants, looking for them. I see red ants, which are very confusing to me. But that egg, that moth will lay, will hatch, and then the worm will go in, feed itself all the way down into your plants and just wreak havoc. Just a quick look, and I'm not really seeing anything yet, but I know that we are literally, for my area, just Google squash vine borer in your area. Don't put your area, like the word your area, put, you know, Kalamazoo, Michigan in there, whatever. And you should be able to get some kind of timeline, like a range in which they are more prevalent to come out. So that's why we started these early. But I have not seen the moth, which is typically, they always say he comes out at night. I see him at the end of the day, or in the middle of the day. I always see him in the middle of the day. And I've only started seeing him when I started looking in the middle of the day too. And then the other thing are the eggs. Once you get all that out, the only thing there is, if you have an egg on there, you remove the egg. But I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, it's too late. You're already gonna have them. So the best thing to do at that point is start treating with the BT, cover those roots, start covering those stems right away, and just get on top of it so you can get more roots and it can be a stronger plant and get as much as you can out of it. When I say cover the stem with soil, I don't mean just take like a little tiny handful. I mean cover it with soil. Don't worry about getting all of this soil, like soil all up on here. You're not gonna hurt anything. It's the best method. I did it a couple years ago, and then I came back and pulled the soil away, and there was roots all in from the stem coming out. And that plant was indeed stronger. Now, I did end up losing it to the squash vine borer, but it was also done. So what can you say? Now, what we'll do as well is, I think this year what we're gonna do, I thought I saw, these are confusing to me. They look like eggs. So what we're also gonna do is, now that they're starting to produce, we're gonna prepare to replant somewhere else another round and try and get these to go through the summer. I've not really done that. Last year I did a second planting of tomatoes, and I'm not gonna do that this year. I'm gonna do a second planting of squash, just because it's harder to preserve and keep longer. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll freeze them. So there is that. But yeah, that's basically how you do the squash vine borer. And like I said, it's just mitigation. You're not gonna totally eliminate it. I come over here to the pepper bed, which is fantastic. It's covered in blooms completely. And we actually have peppers on the other side coming up, but they are just not quite ready. So we're gonna let these slide for a little bit. We're not really gonna mess with them. I need to come in and do a little bit of a weeding periodically just to kind of clear it out. But yeah, these plants are doing really, really good. They are huge. And we topped them. If you want me to do a video about why I top my peppers, then leave a comment below. It seems to be a hot topic in the gardening world this year. A lot of people say it's not worth the time. I always top them to some extent. I've talked about it a little bit, but moving forward, if you want me to talk about like why I do it, I'll definitely do a video about that. And we'll just see. I don't do side-by-side experiments. I just do what I feel like is gonna work better and what I like to do, and this is something I like to do. So just before we go into the peas, that's what we got. So this is our second harvest off of here, and now it's gonna be almost a daily occurrence because of the amount of plants we have. So you can see we've got the white early bush scallop squash, the regular scallop squash, and then the zucchinis. And when the desi squash come, that's when it's gonna be game time. Into the back side of this, these are my Oregon pea pods. And you can see this is the first time I've grown them. They have typically been bigger than normal snow peas, but because it's getting hotter, we're getting, you know, smaller and smaller now. And these plants should be about to finish up now. It's just a matter of time. They really don't like the heat, and we're gonna get into some hotter weather now. So the name of the game is just gonna be get as much as we can off of these. So let me harvest them and see what I can get and see what we can get. Maybe we can save some seed. It's about what we got off of today's pull for these. Pretty good amount. I'd say it's a couple dinners worth. And on the note of snow peas with this time of year, I know some of you are in cooler climates. So we've left, actually I probably left too many on here. I could keep pulling. But the plants will look pretty good. And then I'm gonna take you to a plant right now that does not look very good. And kind of explain to you that it's okay. It's nothing you did. So see this plant right here? It's just too hot. It's giving up. I mean, it makes sense too, because this gets most of the light on this side. So you can see it starts from the bottom, works its way up. And you come over here and you can start to see it occurring here. So within a couple of days, probably by the end of the week, these will all be gone. And so that'll lead us into our June planting for our garden. But you know, between the snow peas and the squash, our goal, my ultimate goal, is being met. I'm pretty happy about that. I don't know. Are you meeting your goals in your garden?
Goodbye.